Hey YouTube, Nurse Marc here. Deciding to become stronger is easy. Picking a powerlifting program, it's a little bit more difficult. See, the problem is there's a whole lot of them out there, and deciding which one is best for you can be really hard. However, the bright side is, all good powerlifting programs have a few things in common. So how the hell do we wade through a sea of programs and figure out which one is best for us? So the first thing you got to look for is something that's powerlifting specific. Now I'm going to use an example of StrongLifts 5x5. This is by no means an optimal powerlifting program, but sometimes it's referred to as a beginner powerlifting program. Now it's an old and reliable program, and I've run it many times, but I usually use it as a recovery between programs when my old man joints are having problems. So breaking down StrongLifts 5x5, why isn't it an optimal program? Well, if you're operating at 5x5, the percentage of your 1 rep max never really changes. It's always like, I think, 65%-ish. So you're never getting the higher percent range that's going to be concentrating on strength training and CNS development. 2, it's not really periodized. It just kind of goes up in blocks by 2.5 and 5 pounds. So while you are going to get stronger slowly, it's not optimal. And technically, it does focus on compounds. Bench, squat, deadlift, and overhead press, so it's a powerlifting program, but it doesn't have any kind of a built-in deload unless you screw up and fail enough times. So for this, it's not really an optimal powerlifting program, but it's often called a powerlifting program. Versus something like Johnny Candido's Candido Linear Program, which has all of the hallmarks of a good program. It's powerlifting specific. Obviously, Johnny Candido's a powerlifter. It's got proper intensity, periodization, and deloads built in. So this program for a beginner is much more optimal than StrongLifts 5x5, but both are heralded as being a powerlifting program. The next thing you got to look at is the level of intensity of the program, which is thinking about the percentage of your 1 rep max that you're operating within. Now I personally hate operating at the lower percentage of my 1 rep max, say that like 65 to even 85%, because I really like lifting heavy things. But unfortunately that's not optimal to constantly be in that 85 to 100% range. It's important to note with intensity that you're going to get stronger no matter what you do. If you're doing sets of 10 to 15 and you slowly add 2.5 pounds to the bar after several weeks, you're still getting stronger, but it's not optimal for strength training and powerlifting. So we want a program that has high enough intensity that you're going to build strength and build volume. So you often see programs with intensity that starts at that like 65 to 75 for high reps and then builds up to doing 85 to 100% of your 1 rep max. And that's that periodization thing. So if you see a program that has too much low intensity or just sticks to low intensity, it's not optimal for strength training. So why do we want a program that operates in that lower 1 rep max percentage range, like 65 to 75? Well, that accumulation phase is where you're hammering technique and form, which is super important because when you go to like 95 to 105% of your 1 rep max and you're about to crap out your spine doing a heavy squat or deadlift, that form is more important than you realize. So build on form and technique during your accumulation phase, and then don't crap out your spine on your 1 rep max. This leads directly into periodization, which I kind of just talked about. So there's linear periodization and undulating periodization. Linear periodization is just kind of like a straight line. You know, you're in that lower percentage, higher rep, and then you're kind of middle, and then high percentage with lower reps. And then undulating is kind of like a up and down. There's daily undulating periodization. Both are good, both have benefits to them, and depending on the program, you're going to have to pick linear periodization or undulating periodization. Now, depending on who you want to listen to, both are amazing, and you'll get stronger with one over the other. So find one that you like and find one that looks best for you, but understand that linear periodization and undulating periodization have been shown scientifically to get you stronger than just adding weight to the bar every single week. Programs like Chad Wesley Smith's Juggernaut method or Layne Norton's PH3 are great examples of things that have block periodization. You start off with a lower percentage and you work your way to the higher percentage, and both are amazing programs if you want an intermediate powerlifting program. So you may want to consider a program that has periodization built into it. Deloading. Deloading sucks, but deloading is one of the most important things of a powerlifting program. The problem with powerlifting is it taxes your CNS so much, your central nervous system. So if you're constantly lifting heavy and not giving your body time off, your central nervous system will eventually burn out. So what ends up happening is you go to lift at like 80% of your 1 rep max, and your body says to hell with this, and you can't even get the bar off your chest. That's where deloading comes in. What deloading does is it gives your body time to grow muscle, which is fantastic. You want to get big and jacked and tanned. I always say jacked and tanned, but I'm a pasty white guy because my family is all British descendants. So I guess I should just say jacked rather than jacked and tanned. So you have to give yourself time off in order to build muscle, but you also have to give yourself time off for your central nervous system to adapt, change the way neurons fire, recruit muscles in order to be able to lift stronger later. Just know that you're going to go to the gym on a deload week. You're going to hate everything about it. It's going to take you like 5 minutes. You're going to want to lift heavier, but you can't because the program calls for you to lift lighter. There's a reason, there's a science. Just do as you're told. One last note is on volume. And I didn't really mention volume before this because there's a lot of people that will say that you need to do the big 4 compounds more frequently. You need to bench, squat, and deadlift and overhead press, or maybe just bench, squat, and deadlift 2 to 3 times a week in order to make progress. But what about something like Wendler 531 or Wendler Beyond 531, where you're only doing the big 3 or 4 once a week? Wendler would argue that his frequency is just fine, and I am not going to argue with Jim Wendler because he's a walking legend. But somebody would argue that 531 has insufficient volume. I love 531. I do 531 all the time. So I personally don't find the decreased frequency a problem for me. And as I get older, and again, the old man joints, I actually kind of like it a little bit. When I was younger, I could get away with higher frequency. Now that I've gotten a little bit older and I'm on my feet constantly as a nurse, I kind of like a little bit less volume sometimes. So considering all these things are important, make sure they're powerlifting specific, they have the proper intensity, they may or may not be periodized, and they have a deload built in. But the biggest thing that you have to concentrate on is you. Can you actually do this program that you've been prescribed? Now, I ran Layne Norton's PH3 a couple of times, and I did it while I was working full-time as a shift worker with picking up OT. And I was able to make the training days, sometimes with less sleep than was optimal, but I did it, but it didn't fit my lifestyle. But I was so doggedly determined to do it that I was able to do the 2 or 3 cycles of Layne Norton's PH3. Nowadays, I don't run programs that I have to adapt my lifestyle and my life to. I find programs that fit my lifestyle. So if you find a program that you really, really like, but it just doesn't work for who you are as a person, then move on to something that does. Almost every program out there that is an actual powerlifting program, Beyond 531, Juggernaut Method, Layne Norton's PH3, the Bulgarian Method, not the Bulgarian Method. But any of these programs will get you stronger over time. The argument that you might get 2% stronger with the one over the other is nonsense. You will get stronger with a powerlifting specific program regardless of which one you follow. Some are just better for competitors or people that can dedicate their lives to powerlifting, and other ones might be more suitable for other people that don't have that kind of time. So simply ask yourself, is this program good for me and my lifestyle? And if it is, booyah, give it a try. And you know what? A 12-week cycle of a program that you find out, you know what, this doesn't work for my lifestyle, isn't that long, plus you'll also have already gotten stronger, you can then move on to the next program. But do yourself a favor, always finish a training cycle with a program before you abandon it. That's it, boys and girls. Research programs that have all those 4, and then maybe technically also frequency, depending on how you want to look at it, and find a program that works best for you, that you can accomplish, and that you like doing. Because the best training program out there is the one that you're going to do. Like and subscribe, questions and comments down below, and as always, eat like a bodybuilder and train like a powerlifter.